Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're zooming in on the literal nuts and bolts of our own bodies. We're going to explore how a single, totally basic biological rule completely dictates how a disease behaves. Specifically, we're breaking down the mechanics of colon cancer symptoms. So, here is the core mystery for today. Why do right and left colon cancers cause completely different symptoms? Think about that for a second. It's the exact same disease, right? Happening inside the exact same continuous organ. And yet, depending entirely on whether the tumor sets up camp on the right side of your colon or the left side, it acts like two completely different intruders. How in the world can location change the entire symptom profile of a disease?
Part 1. The colon cancer mystery.
Okay, let's dive into this paradox. Cancers that develop on the right side of the colon, well, they act like stealthy ninjas. People rarely notice any symptoms early on. This means these tumors are usually only discovered after they've grown quite large and the disease has progressed. But then you look at the left side, and it is a totally different story. Left-sided cancers ring loud alarm bells. The symptoms are super obvious right from the jump, which obviously makes them much easier to detect in their early stages. To understand why we have this crazy night and day difference, we have to look at how the colon actually works.
Part 2. The colon's main job.
We need to look at the colon not just as an organ, but as a biological plumbing factory with one major overriding function: water absorption. Before we even talk about tumors or cancer, we have to nail down this fundamental rule of our internal plumbing. When digested food leaves your small intestine and enters your large intestine, your colon, it's highly liquid. The colon's main job is literally just to squeeze and extract that water out of the digested matter and absorb it back into your body.
And this gives us a great snapshot of a day in the life of our digested food. It's a massive physical transformation. In step 1, matter enters the colon far away from the exit, and it's basically entirely liquid. In step 2, as it travels along the length of the colon, the intestinal walls are constantly pulling water out of it. By the time we reach step 3, down near the exit, almost all that water has been absorbed. What started as a flowing liquid has now become a hard, solid stool. You're going to want to keep this liquid to solid timeline in your head because it is literally the master key to unlocking our entire mystery today.
Part 3. Right-sided cancer symptoms. Now that we understand the rules of the factory, let's apply them. Anatomically, the right side of your large intestine includes the cecum, the ascending colon, and the transverse colon. The absolutely crucial thing to remember about these three areas is their location. They are at the very beginning of the large intestine, the furthest possible point from the exit.
Because this is the very beginning of the journey, the water hasn't been absorbed yet, right? The digested matter here is completely liquid. So, what happens if a tumor starts growing in this specific area? Well, the liquid stool simply slips right through. Even if a tumor is taking up space and creating a narrow gap, a liquid can easily just flow right around the obstacle without getting stuck.
And this leads us to a seriously dangerous consequence. Because the environment is liquid, there's no passage obstruction. The pipes don't get clogged, which means you don't experience constipation. And because the flow isn't interrupted, there are virtually no subjective symptoms early on. That tumor, it can just sit there, silently growing larger and larger, and the patient won't feel a thing until the cancer has significantly progressed. The liquid nature of the right side basically acts as active camouflage for the cancer.
Part 4. Left-sided cancer symptoms.
Let's move to the second half of the journey and see how the rules drastically change. The left side consists of the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, and finally, the rectum. By the time the digested matter reaches this neighborhood down near the bottom of your abdomen, it has traveled a really long way. It's at the very end of the line, right next to the exit.
And because it's traveled all that way, the colon has done its job. The water has been heavily absorbed. The matter is no longer a flowing liquid. It's a hard, solid mass. Now, imagine a tumor growing in this section. A solid mass cannot simply slip through a narrow gap. When solid stool hits a tumor on the left side, it gets stuck. It acts exactly like a clogged pipe in your house that just refuses to drain.
Now, a clogged pipe sounds terrible, I know. But in the context of cancer, this solid blockage is actually a massive blessing in disguise. Because the stool is solid, it causes an immediate passage obstruction. You experience noticeable, uncomfortable constipation. And as that hard stool tries to force its way past the tumor, it often causes bleeding, resulting in bloody stool. These are loud, unignorable alarm bells. Because these symptoms show up so quickly, left-sided colon cancers allow for much, much earlier detection and medical intervention.
Part 5. The key takeaway.
It is honestly fascinating how a basic mechanical function of our anatomy dictates our medical reality. If we recap the features side by side, everything ties directly back to the state of the stool. On the right side, the stool is liquid. Obstruction is unlikely. That leads to late, silent discovery of tumors. On the left side, the stool is solid. Obstruction and constipation are highly likely, triggering early, noticeable discovery. Just that one fundamental rule of water absorption dictates the entire nature of how this cancer presents itself.
So I want to leave you with this thought today. How can understanding your body's simple plumbing change the way you listen to its early warning signs? You know, when we realize that our biology follows strict mechanical rules, we can become so much more proactive. We can stop viewing our bodies as this unknowable mystery and start recognizing the beautiful, logical systems actually at work. Pay attention to the flow of your own systems, listen to the alarm bells when things change, and stay intensely curious about the mechanics of your health. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.